Hello everyone, hope you're doing alright. Today I have for you a quick demonstration of Merc defensive cooldowns and how to deal with them. I've had some people asking, hey, how do I actually know what mercenaries are doing, or just what any class is doing with their defensive cooldowns? What should you hit into, what shouldn't you hit into, etc, etc. Essentially, how do you deal with every class? So I figured, let's get rolling with my baby, the Mercenary. Now, the first defensive cooldown you're going to want to know if you are a mercenary or dealing with a mercenary is Energy Shield. You're going to see here, as soon as we get into combat, we're going to run into a fair bit of trouble, so we instantly pop Energy Shield. Now, a couple things that you need to know. If you're wondering, hey, how do I know when Energy Shield is popped? The first thing you're going to see is this big blue shield that gets popped around me that says, hey, I have a defensive cooldown up. Not very good to hit into this. Additionally, you're going to see this little debuff in my tray here, or buff rather, in my tray. It's a little blue shield. Essentially, big blue shield means Energy Shield. Couple things happen to Energy Shield. First of all, I take 25% less damage, combined with my heavy armor, means I take like 50% less damage. So it's pretty darn nice for a defensive cooldown. Additionally, every time you're attacked with Energy Shield up, you will build up to 10 stacks of these trauma regulators, and then once your Energy Shield collapses, you will heal for 4% per stack. So if I have 10 stacks, I'm healing 40% of my health bar as soon as Energy Shield ends. It's pretty darn nice. So, the primary way to deal with Energy Shield is don't hit into it. Especially in a 1v1 situation, if you can CC out or stun out a mercenary when they have Energy Shield on, you probably should, because otherwise you're just going to feed him 10 stacks of healing on top of the 50% damage reduction, so it's pretty nice. If you have a pretty stacked team like this where you have a whole bunch of damage, you can just hit through the Energy Shield. Just know that you have to get the health bar less than 40% of the way down in order to actually make it worth it. So if you can do like 300 to 400k damage to the mercenary while the Energy Shield is running, then it's kind of worth it if you do the math. But if not, just ignore the Energy Shield, don't hit into it, literally hit anyone else. But for the most part, people just kind of tunnel through it because that's the way that they've always done it. Another quick thing to note here is that every time you attack the target with Energy Shield, you're going to notice that the cooldown of Energy Shield slowly goes down. Just watch throughout this entire fight. Every time that I get hit, the cooldown of Energy Shield will go down and down and down and down and down. This is why we want to pop Energy Shield early. It has like a 2-minute cooldown, and then with the damage reduction, it ends up having like a minute-long cooldown. So we can be popping it multiple times throughout the entire fight. The next defensive cooldown that you need to know about is actually our Chafe Flare. Now this is an optional DCD for most players. What Chafe Flare does is essentially provides you a defense chance of 35%, so it makes you harder to hit, and then it will absorb, I think, the first 2 so direct attacks. The way to deal with Chafe Flare is you can ignore it completely. Just tunnel right through it. There's no downside really to tunneling through Chafe Flare. It's not a strong enough defensive cooldown to justify tabbing off, and if your attack goes through, you still do all the damage in the world. So I personally pop Chafe Flare in combination with my Energy Shield because it prevents the likelihood of me dropping below that 40% threshold, becoming I just take less damage, right? It has a relatively short cooldown, so you pop it early. So if you see this little Chafe Flare icon right here rolling on the target, just know that you're gonna miss some of your attacks. That's fine. Tunnel right through it. You don't have to worry about it at all. So that is all we have for now. Again, keep a quick eye on our defensive right here and watch as that slowly ticks down over time. All right, let's continue on with the video and show off the next defensive cooldown that you want to be popping here, which is our Reflect. So once this wears off, here we go. Reflect. Reflect is a pretty major mercenary defensive cooldown. It is this little button down here. It's hard to see on the screen. I apologize. It looks like a man with like echoing deterrence going on around him. And you should call it that sometime. Essentially what it is, it's going to be a yellow bubble that appears around the mercenary. It also looks like this little guy right here in our debuff tray. And if you hit the mercenary with a single target attack, it will reflect half the damage back to you. Additionally, it will heal the mercenary for like 5% of the damage, or for his entire health bar every time you attack a merc with Reflect up. So basically, if you have any single target attacks, do not use it on the mercenary. You're only gonna hurt yourself, and you're only gonna heal them. There's no good reason. However, Reflect does not work against AoE abilities, which is area of effect. So if you have like suppressive fire or sweeping blasters or anything that does damage in like a big area of effect like this, mercenaries will not benefit at all from having Reflect up. So you can either tab off and hit a different target for like 6 seconds or so, or you can just use AoE and get a little bit of extra chip damage in there while the Mercenary runs away. So unfortunately, it's just kind of another one of those wait and see cooldowns. It's not really that beneficial to hit the target at all, but just know, reflect, don't single target into it, use AoEs, you should be good to go. Again, you can see already down here, our defensive, our CD on our energy shield is already like a quarter of the way down because we're getting hit so much. So that is just the power of Mercenary defensive cooldowns. You can see here, run. Now, the next most important defensive cooldown is going to be our Koto Overload. Koto Overload is a pretty important defensive cooldown. We're going to pop it here in probably 2 seconds. Oh, I'm sorry, I lied. We used our stim and our adrenal, but just tunnel through that, doesn't matter. All right, boom, here we go. Finally using our Koto. So, Koto doesn't really have a pretty animation that goes around it. You have a brief moment of like green appears around you, but it's kind of hard. It's easy to miss. Let's go with that, especially if you're not used to what you're seeing here. The primary thing to look for when dealing with the Koto is this big red buff right here that says, hey, I'm rapidly healing for a bunch of my health. This is Koto down here in our buff tray. What Koto does is it will rapidly heal you up to like 60% of your health for ticking like 9k over and over and over again. Now, if you are facing a Koto, you have two options. Either you have a whole bunch of damage and can actually burst someone to death through Koto. This usually happens when the Koto is popped late, so if someone pops Koto at like 10 to 15%, there's a brief window of opportunity, especially if you're a high burst damage class and you have multiple people, that where you can kill a person through Koto. However, if you're sitting up here at like 50% health and the health bar is very quickly going up and up and up and up and up, yeah, it's just not, there's nothing to do here. You just kind of have to wait it out. So kind of unfortunate, kind of really tragic. But you can see here, if we get two mercenaries on, two Fury Marauders on us, we take a whole bunch of damage. So what have we learned so far? Energy Shield, don't hit into it. You're just helping them out. Chafe Flare, you can hit through it, it's totally fine. Reflect, use AoEs. And then Koto, if they're low, you can try to burst them to death. If they're relatively high though and they're not really in any danger, tab off and then come back in. However, you're going to notice that it has not been 2 minutes in this game. It's only been a total of 1 minute in this game, right? We can see the total timer up here is only 1 minute in. We probably started combat at like 50 seconds, but we already have our energy shield back. This is the danger of tunneling into mercenaries for this much, because you're going to get them energy shield back very, very quickly. So just be aware that you're going to get energy shield back very quickly while Duke goes absolutely ballistic on his bed. Relax. He's talking back to me. He's becoming a teenager. So, now what do we have to do? Unfortunately for them, they have to keep tunneling me because they went me first, and I'm going to have my Chafe Flare and my energy shield back right away. So now I'm going to get all this defensive chance. I'm going to get all that extra DR, and then I'm going to slowly get all these stacks of healing. So, what did they do wrong here? Hold up. If they had sat here and just let me pop this right now, there is no reason to be on me because I have energy shield running. I'm going to get a bunch of healing if they hit into this energy shield. It's unlikely they're going to get me all the way down. What they should do is they should just let me run and then not hit me and then come back when my energy shield's gone and then hit me. But unfortunately, they jump back to me and then give me 10 stacks of healing, and I go from no health bar. I went from no health bar to some health bar, which is going to be enough to get me out of this little sticky situation. So don't be a fool. Don't tunnel into energy shield if you don't have to, especially if they're low like that. Just wait it out. Just be patient, all right? You don't have to tunnel into it every single time. It's totally fine. And once again, you're going to see even already, I already have my energy shield cooldown back about halfway, which is pretty darn strong. So don't tunnel into the Merc unless you can kill them. Por favor. Mercs are very, very tanky classes right now. If you go them first, that's totally fine. Just make sure they're not playing into their strengths. You can see already, I already have like 35 seconds left on my energy shield, which means I'm going to get one back pretty quickly if they are not careful here. Additionally, because we popped our Chafe Flare so quickly, we get a little extra chance to survive all this shenanigans and then live. So, what we learned. Energy shield. Don't tunnel into it unless you have a whole bunch of damage and can get below 40% of my health. Reflect. AoE around it. Don't tunnel into it. AoE, AoE, AoE. Koto. If they're low, you can tunnel through it. If not, tab off and then come back. Additionally, energy shield will come back off a cooldown relatively quickly. So be very, very careful tunneling into a Merc if they're going to have that energy shield quickly. If they're low and have energy shield, just like stun them out and then wait, and then they'll be dead. But that's a quick demonstration on how to take 1.3 million damage in an arena. If you have any questions, comments, complaints, concerns, conundrums, etc., feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. I'm going to try to do a couple more of these videos, especially with some classes where it's like, oh, it's not very obvious what the defensive cooldowns are doing. So hopefully this has been helpful to you as you try to deal with mercenaries, or if you are a mercenary trying to pop your cooldowns effectively. I hope this was useful for you. So that's all I got. Hope you take care. Bye-bye.